Once again, this presentation is called Meet the Man Whose Students Broke the SAT. You'll learn how even Joe Simple can ring College Board's bell by using this simple 5-step system that has helped even complete underdogs get to the top 1% on the SAT. I'm your moderator, Will Wigan, and our guest today is Mr. Michael DeSalvo from testprepaces.com. Now, before we get started, if you would please make sure that you have any cell phones or any other electronic devices turned off so that you'll get the most out of this presentation. And also, please make sure that you have done the diagnostics quiz that you downloaded before you signed in today. We'll be covering that in the next 10 minutes, and it will be very crucial that you have that completed so that we can go over that when Mr. DeSalvo will show you the system. The same steps that you'll be basically learning in this program today will help you really dominate your SAT on that test date. So please get that done as soon as possible. I want to welcome all the parents and students here, and see Larry from Michigan. Nice to see you today, Larry, and Mary from San Francisco. Good to see you here today. In today's presentation, Michael will be covering the following points. First, the College Board's big lie exposed. How you can take advantage of the gross miscalculation of the College Board to get a stellar score. Also, the 5 simple steps that changed hundreds of students' academic careers by listening to these techniques. The surreptitious sabotage, the subtle mistake that most students fall for when approaching the SAT. And your free college guide will be Mr. Michael DeSalvo's hand-picked choices of the easiest schools to get into for free. Then you have Mr. DeSalvo's Believe It or Not, the $1 golden bullet to crushing your test score in 3 months. And last but not least, we're going to talk about today's lucky winners of more than $8,000 worth of free prizes. Everyone will have the opportunity to win, but you have to stay online until the end of the call, so please don't leave early. Okay, I want to tell you first a little bit about Michael DeSalvo. He finished his BA of Psychology in 3 years, graduating magna cum laude from the University of South Florida with a 3.93 GPA. He practiced clinical psychology in graduate school and finished at the equivalent of a master's degree in philosophy. He graduated with excellence in English from St. Thomas Aquinas High School in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He was the teacher of the month, working at Huntington Learning Center in Coral Springs, Florida. He has tutored approximately 1,000 students to help them excel at standardized tests, with dozens scoring in the 99th percentile. He did score a D on his final exam in freshman English, but has many perfect scores on the PSAT, the SAT, and ACT writings sections since then. One interesting thing about Mr. DeSalvo is that he delivered both of his children when the doctor was not available. So it makes him truly an MD, Michael DeSalvo. You may have seen his work on the Miami Herald, on ABC, CBS, Fox News, Yahoo News, WND, NBC, and other media broadcast outlets. Up on your screen, you'll see a few pictures now. I'd like to now introduce you to Mr. DeSalvo and have him tell us a little about himself and about these photos.
Yes, Will. Thanks for introducing me here. That was quite a complimentary introduction. I have a quick 3 pictures here. One's here with my wife, Mary, on the left. She's from South India. There's my daughter, Lidwina. In the upper right, she was my first. And there's little George in the lower right-hand corner. But enough about me. Let's sort of get some started here. Some people might ask, like, why me? Why should I be, tutoring or trying to lead students to perfect scores on their SATs and ACTs? Well, there's a little bit you should know about me. First of all, I did, study fairly hard when I was a young man. I actually was a bit of a nerd. I received that compliment several times from my classmates, probably more because I didn't comb my hair than because I was very smart. So you might say I never socially fit in too well, but I was also quite disoriented when I went from a public school in 8th grade to a private school in 9th grade, and that really made it difficult for me academically because I wasn't used to that level of work. Well, eventually, with my different paths, going in and out of different schools and into the seminary, I found I was, confronted with the SAT when I was younger. In fact, it was when I was a junior in high school that I was really trying my best to do well on the PSAT before the SAT. In fact, what happened was I got a 121 on my PSAT out of the 160 perfect score at the time, which was around the 70th percentile or so, maybe a little closer to the 80th percentile. And I was really set up to get a 1200 on my SAT. So that combined with a 3.5 GPA would have given me a full scholarship to any Florida school I wanted, including the University of Florida, which was considered the Harvard of public schools. Well, unfortunately, I didn't reach that goal. In fact, I was down by 20 points, just 2 questions on my SAT. The 2-3 times I tried, I never quite got to the point of scoring my 1200 for the full scholarship. I was extremely frustrated because I didn't even get $1 in scholarship money rather than the full scholarship tuition that I was trying for because of missing those 20 points on my SAT and 0.03 of a point on my GPA. So I really had a bit of a vendetta, and those, you might say those 4 years, those 3 years in college were, a bad hair day to say the least. So why was that? I think it was really because I didn't really have the habits or the system that could lead me to where I wanted to go on the SAT. And that's really what I want to try to show you today is a system where you have a chance to develop those habits and maximize your score so many doors can be open for you with that great test score. So there are a few common myths that we want to take care of right away because a lot of people have misconceptions about the SAT. The first is that the SAT is hard. So this is the idea of the infamous SAT problems, like, oh, wow, I can't do that. That's like an SAT problem. Well, if you break these problems down, I think you'll see they're really not that hard as long as you deal with those in a stepwise manner. Secondly, that only geniuses score high on their SATs. This isn't true at all. My wife, probably after about 2 years of being married to me, she turned to me one day and said, you know what? You're not really that smart at all. And I remember arguing with her that I never said I was. So if I can do this, you can too. Remember, I scored a D in my final exam in English, and I was really trying as hard as I could. Now, that the vocabulary is impossible, the idea of the infamous SAT word. I know most people on this call probably are taking, Spanish or French or maybe even Latin. The Romance languages will help you so much to understand the vocabulary that you're being given, and I'll be teaching you some context methods here. So you will have at least a good chance, a good understanding of what the word probably means, and that's really all you need on test day. And also that this idea that the new SAT is going to be easier. But from what I've seen from these questions, you need to be kind of a poetical engineer. You need to know poetry, get into the very mind of the author, and at the same time deal with higher level math like trigonometry and pre-calculus, which is not really necessary on the current version of the SAT. And that only rich people can do well on their SAT. I call this the 1% lie. There is a stereotype that only geniuses and people in well-to-do families who are well-mannered can do well on the current SAT. We're going to see that's not true either. Again, that we just need this stepwise system. So the real question here in my mind is College Board our friend or our foe? Should we consider them a collaborator in our educational process, or are they someone that we have to beat? And I'd like to answer that here. First, by going back to 2005. In 2005, College Board came out with some major changes to their tests. They added on their writing section. They made their score out of 2,400 instead of 1,600. But in general, it was a fairly predictable test. We had a stepwise way of approaching the test that could help us do extremely well. And College Board seemed to be pretty at peace with the world. And so did I was okay with this new system. I saw that, grammar being emphasized on the test was actually a pretty good thing. But things all changed in 2012. Well, what happened in 2012? Well, College Board began to really freak out. Why is that? They noticed that the ACT had then taken the market share of what was going on here in the educational world. More students were starting to take the ACT more than the SAT, and they really couldn't handle that. And that is the reason, I think, for College Board's current state of vengeance. They're extremely upset that they're losing the race now against the ACT, and that's the reason for these changes, which actually affords us a window of opportunity to take advantage of this current test in its current form, because it is predictable, as we'll soon see. So take advantage of the College Board's problem right now, and what's working in this educational test preparation opportunity. Let's go ahead now then and look at the diagnostic test answers. We'll start with the verbal. So everyone please pull out their papers here. We're going to go over these answers, and I just want you to mark these right or wrong for now so we can go over these together. Don't worry about marking down the right answers, and we'll go into these one by one. So let's start with the verbal. Number 1 is E, 2 is C, 3 is B, 4 is D, and 5 is D. In math, number 1 is D, 2E, 3 is B, 4 is A, 5 is 41. And writing, number 1 is A, 2 is C, 3 is E, 4 is D. It spells out ACE, A-C-E-D. And let's go ahead now and jump right back into those test questions that you've been dealing with. So I'm going to pull this out so we can all look at this together. And let's start here then with our verbal section. So I'm going to be showing you some steps here today that you can easily implement to do much better on your verbal question. Did anyone miss number 1 out there? Yeah, I see a lot of people miss this. There's a reason I've picked these questions, either because they're easy or hard, or they show a certain skill. But let me show you now the steps that we should be using to do well on the test. So I'm going to get out my handy dandy brush here so we can talk about these. These are sentence completion questions. They're on the current version of the SAT, and we want to deal with these in a stepwise manner. The first thing we want to get used to doing is underlining. So when we say underline, what I mean is underline every context idea you see in the question itself. Can anyone tell me about the ideas, the different ideas you see there in number 1? That's right, in spite of, there's the idea of a classification, as we'll see in a second. Yes, presentation. Presentation is another idea that we want to think about definitionally. Yeah, the speaker is definitely an idea. And yes, concepts and ideas, that's also something that has a certain connotation. Let's go down to number 2 here. This is going to be the classify step. And we're going to classify into one of 4 categories. We'll have accentuation. Does anyone know what accentuation means? That's right. One idea is going to be stronger than the other. It's like a relationship of degrees. Like it's not just raining, that's right, it's pouring. The second one is going to be contrary. One idea is going to be opposite the other. The third one is definition. We always want to think in terms of definition. By definition, one thing is the other thing, like Joe is a dipsomaniac. So in that case, we have, dip, the idea of a dip, like what, losing balance, for example. And then somaniac, there we have soma, meaning body. So he kind of loses control of his body. Why? Because he drinks too much. The last one is cause and effect. And by definition, one thing will be the cause or the effect of the other idea. Okay? Does anyone see any of these relationships in number 1? Yeah, that's right. We have a definition here with presentation. Do you see, in the very root of presentation, we have present. The idea of a present is what? That's right, something good. So Thomas, what kind of word would you put in that first blank in number 1? In spite of the goodness, we'll take it. Okay, let's say the goodness of his presentation. Okay, let's start looking at the choices now. So notice the third step was that we predict here. So we wrote goodness. Is that the same idea as interest? No, not quite, is it? Power? Not essentially. Intensity? No. Greatness? Well, we can hold on to that, right? Strength? Does that show something's good if it's strong? Okay, we'll hold those two then. Let's look at the second blank. Many people were what? So let's first think about how people would normally be. If this guy gave a great or a good presentation, how would the people be with his concepts and ideas? Yeah, maybe impressed. Okay, so what's the opposite of impressed then that we should try in the second blank? Okay, bored. Let's try bored. Look at the choices here. In spite of the greatness of his presentation, many people were gratified. That's not the same, is it? Many people were, well, that's the exact word, isn't it? So that's why it has to be E. Okay, not too bad, right? Let's try the next one. So the fourth step here, by the way, is going to be to correlate with the choices. That's what we just did. So when we correlate, we match things up. We say, is it essentially the same, right? Okay, so let's underline the ideas here in number 2. If you know who Richard Wagner is, that could help you. Intolerant, that's right, that's another idea. Moreover, okay. Does anyone know what classification that's going to point us toward? That's right, it's accentuation. One thing is stronger than the other on top of that. We have the idea of what? Strange behavior, good. What, a cause, an acquaintance. Who knows what an acquaintance is? That's right, a little bit less than a friend, right? We have the idea of composer. Okay, so we have one blank here, and let's try to make this personal. Who knows what intolerance means? That's right, you don't put up with something. So let's pretend you knew this guy, Richard Wagner. He's really weird, right? Like maybe picking his nose in the elevator, right? And he doesn't put up with anything. So if you're kind of in his way when he's picking his teeth in the mirror in the elevator, he'll yell at you or something. So what would be your natural reaction? How about you, Francesca? What would you naturally do with this man, Richard Wagner, if he were acting this way? Stay away from him? That sounds like a good prediction. Is that the idea of contradicting? Not quite, is it? Interrogate? No. Shun? Does anyone know what shun means? Stay away from? Does that sound the same? Okay, let's assume that's right. Revere? No. Tolerate? Now, if you see something that essentially matches up with what you've written down, you don't even have to look at the other choices. We want to save time anyway, don't we? Okay, great job. Okay, let's move over to the reading. And we'll see with our reading, we're going to have 6 steps. So let's see if we can open this up a little bit and talk about these steps. So the first thing we want to do is underline. So when we talk about underlining here, we're going to be doing the same basic thing. So when we underline our ideas and our question, we're going to have an idea of what sort of classifications we should use. Okay, so start with the question itself. What are the different ideas in the question? Okay, good. So fish and shellfish. Good. Okay, becoming toxic. Yeah, that's right. And a time. There's really 3 ideas here, aren't there? Okay, now we're going to classify our question into one of 4 categories. We have main idea, detecting detail, inferential reasoning, and then tone or persona. Let's see if I can get rid of all of our auditory distractions here. So the third one is going to be inferential reasoning. So does anyone know what I mean by inferential reasoning? That's right, it's INFERENTIAL, inferential reasoning. Then we'll have tone or persona. Okay, so if its main ideas could be about the first two sentences, last two sentences, it's about the whole thing. Like, what's the best title of this passage? Detecting details, very direct. Like, where did the little monkey leave his green banana when the zookeeper caught him playing with the dish? We need what? Little monkey, green banana, zookeeper, playing with the dish in the location. We're done, right? Got to keep looking until you find all the pieces you need. Inferential reasoning is the most common type of question. Is about an idea. So we sort of see words like could, should, would, may, might, probably, possibly, imply, infer. So once you see that idea there in your question, you match it with the same idea in the passage. So we're going to look one sentence before that clue, one sentence after that clue, underline all the ideas around it, and we'll synthesize that into a prediction. And then we have tone or persona. So here's where we're going to look at verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and nouns, just like in the main idea, the first two and last two of the whole passage. And we'll say, what kind of person would talk like this? What kind of person would have this perspective? It could even be an occupation, like maybe a lawyer uses legal language, or maybe a sad person will use sad language. The third step is going to be to go to the right part of the passage based on that classification. Fourth, we're going to underline the pieces that we need. Fifth, we're going to write out our prediction based on those clues, and then we're going to correlate with our choices. So I have the fish and shellfish. They're becoming toxic and then a time. And when is that? Does anyone see when that is? Okay, so yeah, let's underline those pieces. So I see, 4 days, minute plant, alter culture plankton, some of the fish and shellfish. There's the toxic. So when is the time? That's right, it looks like 4 days, doesn't it? Okay, let's look at our choices. Swimming in water, is that 4 days? No. Feeding on poison plant, is that 4 days? No. No. We don't have anything about 4 days here, do we? And what did I say? Does anyone know what kind of question this is? That's right, it's direct or detecting detail. We got to keep looking. This is because, in their normal feeding, they have strained the poisonous plankton out of the water. So that's right, it looks like a different time now. It's basically dinner time, isn't it? So swimming in poisonous water? No. Feeding on poisonous plants and animals? Well, that sounds like feeding time, doesn't it? And again, if you know that's fitting, then just don't even look at the other choices. That's not changing feeding habits, giving off a strange glow, or taking strychnine into the systems, is it? Okay, good. All right, let's move on to number 4. This is a unique type of question. We're going to underline our ideas. Okay, good. Context. We have virulence, and then we have line 4. So when I say context, can someone tell me what type of question that would be? That's right, it's inferential reasoning. Now, it's more of a vocabulary question, though, isn't it? So we'll have a different hierarchy that we will use here to find out what this means. But the first thing we want to do is really go to the passage itself, cross out that word, and then write your own word or phrase on top of it based on the ideas around it. So you have Pacific Coast, North America, means sea is filled, my new plant, poison, strange terrible blank. About 4 days after this tiny plant comes to alter plankton, fish and shells become toxic. Okay. So strange and terrible what? Okay, look at all the ideas around it. The tiny plant, poison, becoming toxic. Strange and terrible what? Badness? Okay, I'll take that. Strange and terrible badness. Is that the same thing as strangeness? Not quite, is it? Did we see anything about color? No. Calamity, does anyone know what calamity means? That's right, it's a disaster. Now the Latin can help us here. We know calamitas means disaster, but let's say we don't know that, right? Potency? Yeah, what does potency mean? That's right, like power. Does anyone know the word poder in Spanish? Yeah, it means to be able. So we talk about a certain ability here to do something. Well, yeah, if it becomes toxic, it's done something, hasn't it? Okay, so that's probably your answer. And then odor, nothing about an odor, so it has to be D. Okay, let's look at number 5, the paragraph preceding. Okay, good, so it's preceding, good. What else? Probably, yeah. Discussed what? So where do we look for our answer here? Does anyone know? Tammy? That's right. you look in this paragraph, there's none here, is there? So we have to use our imagination. So normally in sentence structure and paragraph structure, that last sentence of the previous passage will tie right into the first sentence of the next one, right? So in 1 or 2 words, you want to get what's up here from what? What's down here. So 1 or 2 words. What's that first sentence about? Joseph? That's right. It's the glowing water, isn't it? So let's make that our prediction. So glowing water. Okay. Let's look at the choices now. So phenomena of the Pacific coastline. Is that the same, Waldo? No, this is about a line, isn't it? Coast describes the line. We're not talking about water there, are we? Okay, poisons, no. Okay, toxic plants. Didn't have anything about that, did we? Characteristics of plant, no, we didn't have that. Phenomena of the sea? Well, the sea is water, isn't it? Okay, great job. So that's why it's E. All right, let's move right over now to our math. And I burned off the answers here. So let's get right into what we were talking about before of our steps. So I'm going to open this up here. And let's see if we have to click into something else to get this. I'm going to go right to our folder and try to get it there. So let's see. So there's the math. So let's go ahead and edit this. There we go. All right. So I'm going to resize this and okay, starting with number 1. Did anyone miss number 1? Well, that's good. The reason I gave you number 1 is actually that's a pretty easy question. To really want to get into like tutoring, for example, and a systematic course like we'll be doing here, you really want to have an idea what you're doing. If you made a careless mistake, they'll never happen again. That's fine, but you really need to get number 1, okay? So let's just move on to number 2 here, and we'll talk about our steps. So the first thing we want to do is underline. So when I say underline, this is really about setting everything up. Okay, so number 1, we're going to underline every math idea we see. So you're going to translate to write numbers, variables, or symbols. And we have what? 8 to the 7th minus 8 to the 6th. And I always want you to put your numerator on top of your denominator, okay? Whatever you're looking for, make it equal to a question mark. And if you have one equation, you put that right on top of the other, like, you know, maybe x plus y equals 7, x minus y equals 9. You always want to show what you're looking for, like, you know, maybe you're looking for 2x. If you have a right triangle, you want to show that it is right triangle, show whether the sides are same or different. If you're looking for any angles, you can extend your line so you can see all the angles. You know, are they the same or are they different? Okay, so fill in as much as you possibly can to get started. If you notice the right triangle, also write down a squared plus b squared equals c squared if you're trying to find a length, okay? Okay, now our next step after underline is going to be to relate. So I also call this the R1 step. We're going to put 1s where they naturally belong as coefficients, denominators, and exponents. So if I have something like 3c plus c, you call that 3c plus. That's right, 1c. We're just filling out the pattern that's been started. If I have 3c over 7 times 4c, that'd be 4c over 1, wouldn't it? If this is squared, this is naturally to the first. Okay? Can we do anything like that here? Yeah, that's right. With 8 to the 7th and 8 to the 6th, we have something in common, don't we? And we want to respect that by taking out what? What power can we take out? That's right, we have a 6 in common. So it's 8 to the 6th. So you just need to know your exponent rules here. Okay, good. So a minus 1 on there. That's right. Still a minus 1 on the bottom. Does anyone see what we do next? That's right, these cancel out. So that's why it's a to the 6th. Good job. Okay, number 3, we just want to translate these mathematical values. So what represents a number here? That's a real question, isn't it? So, okay. So Sarah So that's going to be our S, isn't it? Okay, so Sarah is twice John. Good. Okay, what's next? 6 ago, Sarah. How do I translate that? Okay, good. So S minus 6, we're taking away 6 from S. You can just ask yourself, what will you do to your own age or your father's age or your mother's age if you're trying to figure that out? Was 4 times, that's right, John. How about the word then? How do we translate that? What's the only time period we talked about here? Starts at 6 years ago. We need to translate that, don't we? Okay, now, is John's age 6 years ago one idea or 2 ideas? That's right. Again, like, mother's or father's age, my age. If we talk about that, that is one idea. You got to respect that with your parentheses, okay? So as we get into the other steps, we'll see that we need to do that. So our third step is to simplify our factor. Fourth, we're going to combine our equations. We add, subtract, divide, and multiply one equation by the other. And then fifth, we use one of 3 types of substitution. Okay, so we're going to show where we're going here. So what? J equals question mark, right? Okay, what do we do next? Yeah, we got to follow PEMDAS, don't we? And that's part of our fourth step, where we combine equations, also use the what? Order of operations. So we'll add, subtract, divide, and multiply one equation by the other, but also follow PEMDAS, but the parentheses where they naturally belong. So there's your S minus 6 equals 4J minus 24, right? You just distribute. And then it's just a matter of getting everything on the same side. So if you had 6 to both sides here, to cancel this out, you'd have S equals 4J minus 18, right? Do we like this S here, Tammy? We don't, do we? So what? S equals 2J, so that's where we substitute. Subtract 2J from both sides. That's right, that'd become a negative 2J. Just show all your work. And now you would have negative 2J equals negative 18. So what? Divide both sides by negative 2. So J would equal 9, right? So that's why that would be 9. Okay, great job. So that's one way to do it. That's the most popular. We'll talk about other ways later. Okay, now if I say 3, 4 right angle, does anyone know what I would naturally say next? That's right, 3, 4, 5. Where would that 5 go? Jose? That's right. Right between the B and the D. Does that make sense? You want to connect your vertices. If I say 5, 12, 13. Matthew? Does that sound familiar? Yeah, where does the right angle go? That's right across from your longest side, which would be your hypotenuse. That's another Pythagorean triple, because what? 25 plus 144 is 169, right? So 5 squared plus 12 squared is 13 squared. Okay, and then the formula for a triangle, area of triangle, that's right, base times height. So we just work these out. What? Get the shortest sides, 3 times 4 divided by 2. That's right, so that gives you the 6. And then 5 times 12 divided by 2. Yeah, that's right, divide by 12 by 2, it gives you a 6. So 5 times 6 is 30. So there's your 36. All right. Our last one, I would say, is probably our hardest problem. There's other problems that are pretty interesting too. I want to give you a few of them today. So we have x plus y equals 7, xy equals 4. We show where we're going. So we can go through all our steps, right? We had underline, relate, simplify or factor, operation, substitution. That's right, we can't fit any of those steps in here, can we? We could put ones where they naturally belong, but that's about it, because we have the exponents here. So we'll have some emergency steps. I'll call this ENBC 5. E stands for end. You say, where are we going in the end? That's right, we get the squares, don't we? See, where are we now? Okay, we have something to the first power, which is the beginning. Sometimes you have to look at the beginning and see if you missed anything. You look at your choices. Yeah, we don't really have any choices here, do we? This is student-produced response, so we need our own number. And then we have the 5 basic steps that we saw before: underline, relate, simplify, factor, operation, substitution. So what has to happen? Veronica? That's right, we need to get this square, don't we? Can I square these individually, or do I have to square the whole side? That's right, according to our mathematical principles, you're going to square the whole side. Okay, so what? X plus y squared and 7 squared. Does anyone know that form? Quantity of x plus y squared? That's right. We got to memorize this. It's the same thing as x plus y times x plus y, or x squared. So if you distribute, what? You get x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. And out of A, B, or C, which one of these forms is going to be easiest to work with? Tabitha? That's right. It's going to be the third one. So we're going to write that down. X squared plus y squared. See if I can write this over here. So we'd have x squared plus 2xy plus y squared. So that equals to 49, doesn't it? Because that was 7 squared. Okay, and then we say, what do we do next? Yeah, we don't want the 2xy, do we? So we really solve these either through operations or substitution. Can we substitute? That's right, we have xy over here, then we can put that in, can't we? So that's going to be your 4. So x squared plus 4 plus y squared equals 49. So we have the 4 times 2. Okay, so that was the 8. So now you just subtract 8 from both sides. That's right. So that's just your 41 there, isn't it? Okay, great job. Okay, there's one last section. Let's see if we can jump it right into the writing. And that's going to be right here. And I'm going to go right to our desktop here. So, okay. All right, so. Okay, now this is the most complicated part of what we're doing here because there's so many principles to know in grammar. But the good news is we'll be using some material that's specially designed to do everything you need to know your grammar. And that's why I think so many students I've worked with have been able to get perfect scores with this sort of material. So the first thing we want to do is get a sentence structure. Okay, so your verb will naturally lead you to your subject. Along the way, we check conjunctions because they're often associated with compound groups and prepositions. Okay. Normally, we probably don't underline, but sometimes you need to follow what you're being asked to do. So it's a good idea to underline there. Normally, though, we have 4 categories. We have grammatical marks, modifiers, verbs, and parallelism. Grammatical marks, what? Periods, semicolons, colons. Do you change them? Do you add them? Modifiers, that's right. They're adjectives or adverbs, aren't they? You have misplaced modifiers, dangling modifiers, ambiguous modifiers. You have verbs. Yeah, so we'll have 4 categories: person, mood, tense, and voice, like first, second, third, singular, plural, person, or the mood. Does anyone know what a mood is? Mood of a verb. That's right. The mood of a verb is going to either be subjunctive, indicative, or imperative. So if it's imperative, that's like a command, like stop it. So there's usually some sort of response required for a command. So it's almost like super reality, okay? Indicative, that's just reality, like the dog walked across the street, right? Subjunctive is a bit less than reality, like I wish I were a professional basketball player. So I'm not, am I? So that would be something less than reality or imagination. So the key with the subjunctives is there's no such thing as was in the subjunctive. If it's a wish or a request or a condition contrary to fact, you have to use were. Okay, no such thing as was, you have to use were. And then in all of the cases, you have to use the base form of the verb. Like, it is important that she dance more quickly. Not that she dances. You get what? To dance. Lop off the 2. You'd have to use dance. It's important that she dance more quickly, not that she dances more quickly. All right, so once you go there, you have tense, and then we have what? Present, perfect, all these things. But you especially want to watch the perfect tenses. So we'll have like the future perfect. So, it's important that he will have gone there next week. So we look from the present to the future. We also have the present perfect, like I have seen that movie before. You relate the present to something that's happened in the past, and then we'll have the past perfect. So in the past perfect, we see that we have one past action that happened before another. Like he had seen the movie before his sister yelled, "Stop." Okay, so that'd be the of a perfect tense. And then finally, we have the voice of a verb. And we have what? Active versus passive. And we prefer that's right, the active. And then we have parallelism, which is about structure, like give me liberty or give me death. So give me, liberty, death are balanced. Or I need to go buy tomatoes, potatoes, and broccoli at the store. Not potatoes, tomatoes, and walking the dog would be fun as I go to the store or something like that. Okay? Okay, so we want to check the structure. So once we've gone through those categories, what we basically correct or we predict. Correct in the prompt itself, right? Write as much as you can. Then you're going to correlate with the choices, say which choice fundamentally matches up with what I want. Okay, so those are your 4 steps. Let's see how that applies here with number 1. If any assigned of the Constitution was returned to life for a day, its opinion of amendments would be interesting. So, does anyone know what category this trips? That's right, this is the wrong mood. We said there's no such thing as was in imaginary situations, right? So we write our were. Okay, great job. So it's not because of singular, plural, or past or present. It's about the mood. It's something you want to get used to and read about. Okay, good. Okay, number 2. Again, we'll go through our categories here. Okay, grammatical marks. Okay, no, it's not that, is it? Modifiers, is everything in the right place? That's right. Jonathan, there is something wrong there, isn't there? Well, let's see. Much to our disgust. What caused the disgust here? William, what do you think? That's right. It's really that the tickets had been sold out, isn't it? Do you see the confusion this caused here? We just talked about the 3 hours of waiting, and now we have the disgust, and then we have the tickets being sold out. So this is in the wrong place, isn't it? So how would I really say this? That's right. After we were waiting in line for 3 hours, tickets have been sold out, much to our disgust. So that's what caused the disgust. So it's C, isn't it? Okay, great job. Okay, the third one, let's go through this. Grammatical marks? No. Modifiers? Okay, good. Let's check our verbs. Okay, we got the has and the will. Okay, this is a little bit about the parallelism, because the parallelism will be joined by the conjunctions. So what goes with the has? Thomas? That's right. That's right, we're missing something, aren't we? So you say has goes with will, but we wouldn't say has keep as word, would we? Has kept, that's right. So that's why it's E. Okay, very good. Okay, let's go to our last one. And we see number 4, in spite of Tom wanting to study. Okay, grammatical marks. No one thinks it's grammatical marks? Well, here's my question. What was getting in the way of the sister wanting to, the sister's plans? What was getting in the way? Was it Tom or was it the wanting to study? That's right, it's the wanting to study. So would I say Tom wanting to study? That's right, it's Tom's wanting to, the wanting to study actually belongs to Tom. So the gerund needs to go with the possessive. Okay? All right, great job. Okay, well, I think we all see it. So that's going to be letter D, isn't it? Okay, great. All right, well, I think as we all seen here now, if we talk about what we wanted to do in terms of our steps here, this wasn't as bad as it could have been, right? So we can think about some of those missed out. Does everyone see, as far as those steps are concerned and the questions that you missed? Yeah, I know some of you missed about 70% of those, didn't you? And that's okay. I know some of those are a little hard, at least initially, but with the 5 steps, how many of you feel very confident here that if you put those steps into action on test day, you saw these similar questions before, you'd know how to do them? Is anyone that confident? Wow, there's a lot of yeses there. Yeah, it's about the steps, okay? If you use the steps, you should really expect to do well on test day. So it is true then, the SAT can be easy if you approach it systematically every time like we just did here. Vocabulary, as you saw with a word like, virulence, reminds of a word like virus. It can be deceptively easy if you use some hooks related to words that you do know. You don't have to be a genius to do well in this. I've seen students around the 5th percentile get up to the 50th percentile in their scores. Does it make sense to spin the College Board roulette then? I would say no. Don't worry about taking the test. Let's deal with the test right in front of us, because this is very doable. Now, what about the 1%? Those students who, are supposed to be so privileged that they alone can do well on the SAT. Well, we're going to question that assumption in a second here. So College Board has been famous for their line that students really can't improve their scores by much. They were toting that line for probably 20 years until about 3 or 4 years ago. I remember a mother asking me, or just telling me that she saw her son's scores go up by, I don't know, it was maybe 230 points within about a month of tutoring. And she said, well, he's not supposed to be able to do this. I've been reading what the College Board's been saying about their scores, and you're supposed to only increase by, 20 or 30 points in a section. So he's not supposed to be able to do this. He's like, what's going on? And I told her, it's not true. It's not true that your scores have to stay the same, that these scores have to be stable, that you can't improve your IQ or your SAT scores. So let's see why that is. Let's back up to when I started implementing this system. There's a young man named Richard who I was tutoring at a tutoring center, and he had been floundering for some years in his curriculum and trying to do better at this particular tutoring center. And I remember how we were working together for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks, I looked at his scores, I gave him some steps to implement. We've been tutoring for 8 hours, and we took the test again. Well, his scores went up by 300 points, and his parents couldn't believe it. I was using some of the same techniques. Actually, I'm showing you the better techniques than the ones I was using back then. And his parents called up and they just said, you've never really helped my son before. What in the world are you doing now? And I found the whole situation very embarrassing, that they were saying such high things about me and insulting the test center like they were. But we kept working together for another 2 weeks, and he went up another 170 points. So we had a 470 point increase in 16 hours of tutoring, and I knew I was onto something. So there was a point though there where I had to make a decision, because even though this is a very nice neighborhood where I was tutoring at this particular tutoring center, there's some fairly rambunctious students. One of them, we'll call Jake. When I asked him about what he wanted to do when he wanted to grow up, he told me he wanted to be a thief. And I was kind of surprised by his prediction of his future employment. And I really said, I think you could do better than that. He didn't really care what I was saying, though. I found about a month later, he decided to throw a very hard eraser at me across the room and nail me right in the chest. And I had to make a decision. Do I stay here and work from the same textbooks that this tutoring center is asking me to tutor from, help the students the best I can, or do I implement my steps here to the fullest degree and help students the way I had to be helped in order to improve my scores? So what type of students then does this work for? Along my path, I found some different situations and different students and how they reacted to working in this stepwise sort of way. Now, I have protected identities of these students for confidentiality reasons. These results are definitely not typical, but this shows you the possibilities if you are the sort of student who is determined to increase your scores and you use a system like this. So first of all, there's Quatisha. Now, Quatisha had a pretty low score when we started. It was an A10 out of the 3 sections. So she was kind of embarrassed that her score was so low. It was right around the 5th or 6th percentile. So 95% of students had done better than her on her SAT, and her parents really wanted her to do better. So we worked together for about 2 months. It was a really strange situation. There's actually some domestic abuse involved, and the father ended up going to jail, and it was really messy. But I really had to try to make her focus and do her very best on test day. She ended up with a 1520, so it's about a 700 point increase from what I remember in her test scores. And her parents were floored. And she wasn't from a very great neighborhood, but we put those skills together, and she was willing to learn, and that's what I found out about her. There's Connor. He had a 156 on his PSAT. He was pretty mad and embarrassed about that. He's actually a football player, and worked very hard, very determined. We were able to get his SAT to about a 2210. So again, something like a 600 or 700 point increase, but he was able to get into about the 99th percentile in his scores. Then there was Grant. Grant was on the state's rowing team. So he was an athlete, but also used every minute that he could to study and improve his scores. He actually scored around the 90th percentile the first time we took the test. We took the ACT, got into the 99th percentile, and then he ended up around the 95th percentile in the SAT, and he got into Yale. So we were pretty happy about that. There were Sarah and Christine. They were sisters. We started off tutoring them together. Their PSAT scores were fairly decent, right around a 170. I continued working with Sarah, and Sarah ended up getting a perfect score in her writing, which really helped her to become a National Merit Scholar. So she went up from about the 60th percentile to the 94th percentile on her SAT. There is Emily. She actually had a learning disability and had a hard time processing things, got some extra time on her test, and we were able to get from about the 156 mark on the PSAT, and we actually got above a 700 in 2 out of 3 sections to end up with a 2120 on her SAT, so above the 90th percentile. John was actually a student I tutored purely online, and John had some pretty intimidating scores for me to start with. He had a 680 in his math and about a 580 in his reading. We were able to finish with a 1510, so a perfect score on his math and a 710 in his reading. So again, he did the homework, he did the basics, and he got into school early. He actually got into college as a junior. We had Vic. I only saw him in class. I never actually tutored him. He followed my techniques. He was able to get a perfect score on his writing section. He thanked me personally for that. There's Patrick. Patrick was a more unique guy. He remember telling me one time that he hung out with the Hells Angels biking gang, and found them to be very fun and easygoing. Well, anyway, he got his 300-point increase on the SAT. He was not always with me. We worked on his diet a little bit and some of his habits, and we were able to get the 300 points, which his guidance counselor said was unheard of. But as you all know, it is very doable. There's Arjun. He said he was no good in math. He ended up with a 780 in his math section and about a 2120 on his SAT. And there's many other examples. You all can see them on my website. I don't want to bore you with too many examples here. So what have you learned today? The SAT is really an easy test if you approach it with a proven system. Learning disabilities often mean very little when you activate your true potential. Without memorization, though, in regards to the grammar, the math, and vocabulary, your efforts to achieve maximum scores on this test are largely futile, and I'll show you how to do that. You don't have to be super smart to take the SAT. There are ways to actually increase your IQ even quickly. But time is ticking to take the old SAT. There are many benefits to doing so, though, if you use the right system. And most importantly, habits will either make you or break you, not only on the SAT, but in life. So I'm going to show you an easy way to get those habits in a second. But first, I want to get you a special gift. You remember I was talking about the free college guide. You can easily access that here at testprepaces.com/free. It's my gift to you for hanging in there with me. I know a lot of you are concerned about college. A lot of people have to pay over $100,000 for a 4-year program. And I want to show you some easy ways to really whittle that down so you have to pay the bare minimum. And now the winners. Let's quickly get our names here and see who's won today. Okay, drum roll, maestro. James Robinson, are you on the call today? James, congratulations. You have won a full tutoring scholarship for 30 hours of working personally with me. I'm going to show you those techniques. We'll get into those in depth. And we're going to really see if we can crush your scores here like you did with these other students I've been talking about. Okay, good, congratulations, James. Sarah Thomas? Okay, is Sarah Thomas here today? Well, hopefully Sarah will get back to us in a few seconds. I hate to see her lose her scholarship, but everyone does need to be on the call to get this tutoring scholarship. So if someone knows Sarah, you better call her up right now before we finish the call. Okay. All right, and Trevor Martin. Trevor, congratulations, Trevor. You've won today too. So just like Mr. Robinson, you can contact the help desk at support@testprepaces.com. We'll get you set up with your free textbook and your free course, and we really look forward to working with you today. Okay, all right, let's move on now. Now, that's not all I wanted to say. Let's ask ourselves, what could this whole system do for you? I'd like to introduce you to the membership in the Academy of Test Prep Excellence. This is the same system that's guided nearly 1,000 of my students to test day success. So what will you gain in the Academy? Well, first you'll gain the confidence that you can approach any test and achieve your absolute maximum score. You'll learn a system that will enhance your efforts in college, so you can spend your time doing more valuable things, like going to the cafeteria. You can earn a great score, so you can compete for top-tier scholarships and impress future employers with your skills and portfolio. You can learn the critical thinking skills that make up the top 1% of successful people. Think Bill Gates. Show that you finally succeed in what others think is the hardest academic work. This is your chance to prove yourself. This will include reading comprehension training. You'll be able to be laser focused, know where and how to read SAT passages, know what your answer should be even before you get to your choices. Vocabulary training, how to recognize and understand even words you have never seen before, and understand how the Latin and Greek word parts are related to the modern languages, so you can recognize what you need right away. We'll have writing training, know how to write a coherent essay and finally express what you want to say in clear, concise, convincing ways. So test scores will be forced to consider the worth of your work, and you will be able to communicate in real life, because that is the most essential skill for a higher paying job. Can you communicate? We'll have grammar training. You'll know how to break down even the most complex sentences and see how words, phrases, and clauses relate not only grammatically, but even in reading and science passages. You'll see these grammar cues that you'll need to decipher to get the right answer. We'll have the math training. So you know how to set up your math problems like an architect, so you can know what to do in each step. Give yourself a chance to answer even the most difficult questions, and we'll give you the in-depth training with that, with the 5 steps. You'll have life skills. You can systematically deal with the most complex problems in an orderly, confident way, as you know that your critical thinking skills are at the max, and you can compete with some of the most talented people in the job market. So we'll give you 30 hours of this bonus live training so you can completely crush the SAT. You're going to receive on-demand recordings of the 30 hours of training in the membership area in case you do miss one of our sessions. We'll also have extra weekly live question and answer sessions, so you can ask me questions personally even if you miss some of the calls. Let's overcome your obstacles with massive imperfect action. And I am going to offer some limited time bonuses for those who act quickly here. We're going to give you world-class training in the ultimate test day tool, the heart math technique, which has been shown to help students improve their math scores 32% and their verbal scores 23%. Access to our SAT Mastermind group, where you can get a hold of me and other SAT gurus who are already achieving high marks in their tests. You can ask any questions you want related to the SAT. We'll be giving you access to the Facebook group. Bonus number 3, improve your IQ in 1 day through the Intelligence Intensity program. This is a value of $17 on paper, but in real life, how many thousands of dollars is this not worth? Okay, we're going to be leading you through this program of improving your IQ. Bonus number 4, the Speed Reading Monster course. This is going to be a course where you don't have to worry about anymore about not finishing your passages. We're going to get you laser focused anyway, but in real life, you do need to knock out a few books at a time in different situations. I'm going to show you how to do that with the Speed Reading Monster course and the special speed reading techniques I give to my own students. Number 5, make your degree matter. So we're going to help you choose your college degree. So it's worth something in the marketplace, and you know where you're going in life. Who wants to flounder in college for 10 years? Seriously. Let's get you in and out of school so you all can make some money in your careers and enjoy your family and your life plans. Bonus number 6, destroy your debts. Here's a great program I've picked up here for you to make sure that you get your college debts out of the way and we maximize your effort. And then we have the Ready for College checklist. That deals with degree programs in colleges, different things you should be ready to do for not only test day, but for getting into college. I myself didn't have the checklist, and this prevented me from getting into graduate school the way I wanted to. I wish I had this at the time. But you have this easy to look at checklist to make sure you have everything in order. And if you act now, you'll also have a chance to chat with the guru. You're going to get 30 minutes with yours truly, discover how we can maximize your scores and choose out the most effective plan to get you into the school of your choice. Now, membership in the Academy of Test Prep Excellence would normally be $997. That's the retail price. It will normally be after our basic launch periods here. But I wanted to do something specially for you today. We can talk about the $3,000 and $12,000 programs out there of intensive one-on-one tutoring. I'm not saying that we're going to do all that all the time. I'm going to give you some chances to work on me with one-on-one, even if it's just in the phone call. But I believe I put together the ultimate pieces that we can work with in the interaction we have in a group one-on-one in our Facebook groups. And I think this is better than any of the $1,000 programs you'll see out there for classrooms. But I want to do something special for you today. I don't want to do the $997. I want to give you all a chance to get in at a much lower price. I was even thinking about something like $497 for those of you who are ready to take the chance and improve your SAT scores. But I figure, this is a launch class. I know some of you are kind of afraid about doing something online. I want to make this the absolute minimum risk for you. And today only, I'm going to be making that $297. So if you check around in your other classes out there, you'll see they're right around $500 to $900. I want to make this super easy for you. You're going to get all those bonuses we talked about and the essential program, even get to work with me personally for $297. That's less than the price of 1 hour of tutoring with other tutors who charge between $300 and $350 an hour. But you're going to be getting 30 hours plus another 10 hours of the question and answers for basically 40 hours for less than $300. So if you want to order right away, you can order here at testprepaces.com/SAT Domination. There's also the yellow button at the bottom of the screen. If you just click the buy button, you'll be led to that page. I want to get you protected too, though. There's a special surprise I have for you if you order today. A lot of you maybe don't have $297, around, or maybe you have to talk to your parents, or I don't know. Maybe you're afraid to take a chance. I understand that. So today, if you act now, first, I'll be giving you a $20 credit for your free textbooks. So you'll be able to get the College Board's SAT study guide, which we'll be using later, and also the Gruber SAT study guide. Sometimes you get those for super cheap, like $3 or $4. The first 50 students who order now will get this credit to bring down the price to $277. But that's not all. Today and today only, I'll be offering you a special price of $1 to hold your seat. That's right. You don't even have to pay the $297 today. It'll be $1 to hold your seat as you get ready for our program. $1 will secure your spot if you want to get involved with our SAT program, and you can find out for yourself. Do you like it? Am I leading you to the knowledge you'll need on test day to deal with things in an effective way? The $1 will hold your spot when you sign up today. Then you'll be charged the $147 after the first session next week, and then the other $149 in the second session, and that'll be the last payment near the end of that week, okay? So that's not even counting the $20 discount of the books. So if you order right away, you'll be able to get the $1, the $127, and $149. You can still cancel within 30 days of getting access to these sessions and get a full refund at any time. So my guarantee for you is this. In the first 30 days, if you're not 100% certain that membership in the Academy doesn't help you gain the confidence that you can approach any test and achieve your absolute maximum score, learn a system that will maximize your efforts in college so you can spend more time doing valuable things, or earn a great score so you can compete for top-tier scholarships and impress future employers with your skills and portfolio, I'll give you your money back, no questions to ask. It's that simple. So again, there's only 100 spots I can guarantee on this call. There's about 1,000 of you on this call. So yes, that's just $297 total. $1 to get you in. Credit cards and PayPal will be accepted. This is the only time this price will be offered in this launch. So if you've succeeded as much as I've indicated, all I'm asking for you is that you write a testimonial for the Academy of Test Prep Excellence in exchange for this ridiculous deal. That's why the price is so low today. So again, 30 hours of the bonus live training. So you can crush the SAT, you get the on-demand recordings, 30 hours of training in the membership. You'll get your extra live question and answer sessions, about 10 more hours of live Q&A with me. You'll get the world-class training, the hard math technique, where students have improved their math scores 32%, verbal scores 23%. Get access to our SAT Mastermind group. You can ask any question you want in our Facebook group. You get your Improve Your IQ in 1 Day ebook, the Speed Reading Master course, your Making Your Degree Matter course, College Readiness Checklist, the Destroy Your College Debt ebook. You'll be able to chat with a guru, 30 minutes, discover how you can maximize your scores, chisel out your plan to get in the school of your choice. And the first 50 people will get that $20 credit towards their books, so we can have something like you would have on test day. Does anyone have any questions? Just keep them short and to the point. Okay, Joe wants to know, how much is it for the whole course? Well, as we said, it's $297 total after the third session. So there's 3 payments, payment of $1. Then we talked about the payments of the $147, and then the payment of $149. But only be $127 if you're the first 50. Okay, Chantel, thank you for joining. Okay, looks like we have about 20 spots left. Anyone else have any questions? Okay, Alex, thank you for joining. Nice to have you with us today. Okay, but it looks like we have about 10 spots left. Okay, so this offer is about to close down in about 24 hours. The price will incrementally rise with each new SAT that comes out. So we're talking about the October SAT at this point. There's also going to be a November SAT, and then there's going to be a January one. So each time the prices will get more. So yes, it is going to be $297 only for this launch. It looks like we're running out of time here. I'd like to thank you all for joining today. It looks like there's about 3 spots left to get the free 50 books. The first 50 people get the $20 credit. We'll be sending you links for all of the material. Yeah, that's right, for the College Board book and the Dr. Hacker book I've rewritten into my own format, so you can have that. Then there's also the Gary Gruber book. I'll be sending you links to that too. There's other ways you can get to it. There's some copies online, but I really recommend you get the print book in real life, so you can follow along, use your book like you would on test day. Okay, so if you need to add questions, looks like we've reached the 50 people who got their credit. There's some spots left for the $297. I suggest you order right away and give your parents a chance to look at the material in case some of the moms and dads weren't able to get on the call. There'll be a recording that will be up tomorrow morning, and they can check that out and probably get in before we run out of spaces in our group. There will be another showing here on Wednesday afternoon, so please make sure you order before time runs out, because I'm only one person here. With all the one-on-one time I'll be spending with you all, I really can't take more than about 100 people, so make sure you get in. Okay, Jonathan, thank you for joining. Okay, looks like we have about 30 spots left. Looks like I'm signing out here. It was great to have you all here. I look forward to working with you. And please email me if you have any questions. We're at help@testprepaces.com. And we'll be here to answer anything that you need to help you get started. Okay, well, everyone, you have a great night. And it's great meeting everybody. I look forward to working with you. And hope to see you soon. Bye.